Ishmael, the forgotten son of Abraham. His story has been slept on by many Christians. But what if I tell you that this is the time you need to know his story? Yes, because in this end time, many things you see around are intertwined with the past. If you are excited and curious to know the things around Ishmael, then stick with me till the end, because I believe you are going to be very surprised. Hit the subscribe button for future updates. Thank you. Now let's go on. You see, Ishmael's story is often overshadowed by his half-brother Isaac in biblical narratives, but both of them hold a significant role in the story of Abraham. According to the Bible, Ishmael was the son of Abraham and Hagar, Sarah's maidservant. In the book of Genesis, Sarah, Abraham's wife, was initially unable to bear children, leading her to propose that Abraham have a child with Hagar. This decision, driven by impatience and doubt about God's promise, resulted in the birth of Ishmael. The tension between Sarah and Hagar grew, and after Hagar's pregnancy, Sarah treated her harshly, leading to Hagar fleeing into the wilderness. But wait, where does Hagar come from? According to the Bible, in Genesis 12, there was a famine in the land, and Abraham went down to Egypt to live there for a while because the famine was severe. As he was about to enter Egypt, he said to his wife Sarah, "I know what a beautiful woman you are. When the Egyptians see you, they will say, 'This is his wife.' Then they will kill me, but will let you live. Say you are my sister, so that I will be treated well for your sake, and my life will be spared because of you." When Abraham came to Egypt, the Egyptians saw that Sarah was a very beautiful woman, and when Pharaoh's officials saw her, they praised her to Pharaoh, and she was taken into his palace. He treated Abraham well for her sake, and Abraham acquired sheep and cattle, male and female donkeys, male and female servants, and camels. But the Lord inflicted serious diseases on Pharaoh and his household because of Abraham's wife, Sarah. Pharaoh might have consulted his advisors or priests who could have interpreted these events as a sign of divine displeasure or a curse. Ancient cultures often sought explanations for unusual or catastrophic events through religious or supernatural means. So, Pharaoh summoned Abraham. "What have you done to me?" he said. "Why didn't you tell me she was your wife? Why did you say, 'She is my sister,' so that I took her to be my wife? Now then, here is your wife. Take her and go." But one will ask, did he sleep with her? Did Pharaoh touch Sarah? This is not the first time Abraham has done such a thing to Sarah, that she should lie that he is the brother, not the husband, in order to gain favor. A good one is in Genesis 20. Abraham handles things the same way while sojourning in the Negev of the Promised Land, Canaan, when he fears Abimelech. But here it specifically says that God kept Abimelech from touching Sarah. That's verse 6. So, does this mean God did the same thing with Pharaoh? The Bible is not clear on it. But ancient leaders and kings had so many wives and concubines, and for it to reach Sarah's turn would have taken time. Besides, looking at the culture at the time, if such a thing happened, she wouldn't be able to hide such a thing from his husband. Let us know your thoughts on this in the comments section. Then Pharaoh gave orders about Abraham to his men, and they sent him on his way, with his wife and everything he had, together with Hagar. Now that's how Hagar became a slave to her madam Sarah. This is in Genesis chapter 16, verse 1. And now Sarai, Abram's wife, had borne him no children, but she had an Egyptian slave named Hagar. All right, picking up the story of Ishmael where we left off. The tension between Sarah and Hagar didn't ease up, even after both had children with Abraham. Sarah continued to treat Hagar harshly, which eventually drove Hagar to flee into the wilderness. But the situation wasn't quite as it might seem. Sarah was rightfully offended, even dishonored, by her servant Hagar. Hagar's attacks were a direct assault on her worth, value, and personhood in the eyes of the community. Her position and her reputation were at stake. If she permitted Hagar to persist in her actions, her own worth of belonging would be compromised, even to the extent of a possible disconnect with her husband, Abraham. Hagar put Sarah in quite a vulnerable position. The Hebrews helps us see this tension in the phrase, "She looked with contempt on her mistress," Genesis 16:4. The Hebrew kalal literally means, "be made light of." The ESV translates this, "Her mistress was dishonorable in her eyes." This was a grave cultural faux pas on Hagar's part. By dishonoring Sarah, she was attacking her very being, causing her to feel flawed and unworthy. In that society, this was the highest form of offense that could be dished out upon another. Hagar was cunningly manipulative. Sarah was deeply humiliated. 14 years later, Hagar's son brought a similar dishonor on Sarah's newborn son Isaac. Moses recorded it, but Sarah saw the son of Hagar the Egyptian, whom she had borne to Abraham, laughing. Genesis 21:9. The word laughing, Hebrew tasakak, more precisely means to mock or to jest at. Cross-reference in Galatians 4:29. Again, a shame is intended. Ishmael wanted Isaac to be seen as flawed and unworthy, hoping for a disconnect between Isaac and his father, Abraham, so that he would be seen as the undisputed son of blessing. Although Isaac was far too young to understand the slight, Sarah did. She knew the implications of such shame on the one who God had designated to inherit the line of blessing promised to Abraham in Genesis chapter 12, verses 1-3. The consequences to the family lineage and ultimately to the nations were too significant for Ishmael's slight to go unopposed. So she acted to preserve the honor that was rightfully Isaac's, Genesis chapter 21, verses 8-21. But all this time, God was watching from above. One day, the issue reached a point where Sarah could not bear it. She ran to her husband Abraham with tears and asked him to drive Hagar away. Abraham, being a good and loving man who seeks harmony, didn't rest on the case. He also went directly to God, because from the start, he involved him, and God gave him the go-ahead to be with Hagar. Now, this is what God said to Abraham. In the NIV, that's Genesis chapter 21, verses 12-13. It says, 12. But God said to him, "Do not be so distressed about the boy and your slave woman. Listen to whatever Sarah tells you, because it is through Isaac that your offspring will be reckoned." 13. I will make the son of the slave into a nation also, because he is your offspring. In this passage, God reassures Abraham that, despite the tension and conflict, he will also care for Hagar and her son Ishmael and make him into a great nation. Many of us are familiar with the ancient story of Abraham and his longing for a son. In addition to this narrative, it's worth noting how God assured Abraham that his son Ishmael would also become a great nation. Traditionally, the descendants of Ishmael are associated with several modern Arab nations. This includes Saudi Arabia, which is central to the Arab world, Jordan, which is home to many Bedouin tribes linked to Ishmael's lineage, and the United Arab Emirates, UAE. Egypt also has historical connections to Ishmael's descendants through various tribes. So, while we often think of these nations in modern terms, they carry a deep historical link to the ancient promise made to Abraham. And you also know the 12 tribes of Ishmael that brought about this big Arab nation. You see, when Hagar and Ishmael were sent to the wilderness by Abraham and where they wandered in the desert of Beersheba, Abraham packed all they would need, like water and food, and sent them away. When the water in the skin was gone, she put the boy under one of the bushes. Then she went off and sat down about a bow shot away, for she thought, "I cannot watch the boy die." And as she sat there, she began to sob. God heard the boy crying, and the angel of God called to Hagar from heaven and said to her, "What is the matter, Hagar? Do not be afraid. God has heard the boy crying as he lies there. Lift the boy up and take him by the hand, for I will make him into a great nation." Then God opened her eyes, and she saw a well of water. So she went and filled the skin with water and gave the boy a drink. God was with the boy as he grew up. He lived in the desert and became an archer. Years later, in Genesis 25, after Sarah's death and Isaac's marriage, Abraham takes another wife named Keturah, and we learn the names of their descendants and how they were sent east so as not to threaten Isaac's inheritance. The Jewish rabbis suggest that the wife he took after Sarah's death, Keturah, is actually Hagar. The rabbis think that Keturah was the nickname of Hagar, and imagine that Abraham and Hagar are reunited at the end of their lives. That's a big twist. But what of Ishmael? Well, the verses announcing Abraham's death strike an optimistic chord about the relationship between the brothers. Genesis 25. 9. His sons Isaac and Ishmael buried him in the cave of Machpelah. Later we are told that Isaac's son Esau married Ishmael's daughter, Genesis 28 verse 9 and chapter 36 verse 3, further implying that relations were normalized between the brothers and their families. Finally, the text tells us the names of Ishmael's descendants who dwelt in the wilderness near Egypt. Who were they? They are Nebaioth, then Kedar, and Adbeel, and Mibsam, Mishma, and Dumah, Massa, Hadad, and Tema, Jetur, Naphish, and Kedemah. These are also the 12 tribes of Ishmael. How did they become the big princes of the Arab nation? Hagar, the mother of Ishmael, is sometimes identified by rabbinical commentators as the daughter of Pharaoh. If this is correct, then Ishmael's marriage to an Egyptian woman chosen by Hagar could provide insight into why his descendants became prominent leaders. According to this interpretation, the connection to Egyptian royalty through Hagar might have enhanced Ishmael's status and influence, contributing to his son's rise as powerful princes in the Arab world. In the Jewish version of Abraham and Ishmael's relationship, Ishmael dwelt in the wilderness of Paran. Ishmael sent and took a wife from the daughters of Moab named Aisha. Aisha is presented here as Moabite, though the name is Arabic. The story continues with Abraham's interaction with this woman. It's understood that Abraham didn't favor her during his initial visit. He subtly conveyed to his son, through a parable, the message to divorce her. Why? Because he was not properly received by her when he arrived, which clashes with one of Abraham's core principles. Aisha's lack of hospitality connects with her being Moabite, a tribe which, the Torah reports, also does not bring the Israelites bread and water when they were in need. Deuteronomy chapter 23, verses 4-5. Aisha informed Ishmael about the message. Both Hagar and Ishmael understood the message, and so he divorced her. Later, his mother brought him Fatima from Egypt. This time when Abraham visited them, he was well received. Therefore, he left a message of blessing to the family and left again. The reason for Abraham's visit in the Jewish version seems clear. The terrible trauma of expulsion had to be resolved, and Abraham's standing as patriarch of the Jewish people had to be rescued. This is accomplished through Abraham's blessings on Ishmael and his family and his restoration of Hagar's status in the person of Keturah. Abraham remained steadfastly loyal to his first wife, Sarah. Yet he would not abandon his firstborn son, nor would he forsake his son's mother Hagar, who after Sarah's death became Abraham's second wife. If you enjoy this video, then we implore you to share your thoughts on this topic by commenting below, and also check out our other videos showing on your screen now. God bless you.